And hello and welcome to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and as always, thanks so much for being here. Well, I have the pleasure of having a guest who's been with us before. I hope that you enjoy the show. And I have Ed Wilhelms, the founder of DramaWorks Theater, which is based in Old Saybrook, Connecticut, as my guest today. Ed, welcome back.
Thank you.
It's so nice to have you.
Well, it's nice to be here.
And as you know, what we do is we introduce the viewer to the guest and the background, which you probably remember is what I tell you every time. So why don't we go back? Tell us about yourself.
Oh, boy. Well, okay. So, as far as acting is concerned, you want to know about...
from your arts and entertainment background.
So, I actually started by accident, really. I was 16 years old, and a teacher in high school had a job directing a play in Summerstock, and he said to me, would I like to be a stage manager? And I had a little bit of an interest in it, in theater, so I said, but I'd never been on stage before. And I said, sure. What's a stage manager? You always say yes, and then you go learn to dance. You always say yes. So anyway, we did it. I wound up staying at the theater, bumming a place to live and running a tab at the snack bar inside the theater so I could eat. I mean, it was horrible. And my parents were very angry, but I stayed. And then I did the shows in high school. So then I decided this is what I want to do. So I actually had a chance to get a scholarship at C.W. Post College. Do 4 shows a year, we'll give you a scholarship. I said, me, smart, right?
Of course.
I said no.
Oh, okay.
So I went to New York, lived on Long Island anyway, so I hopped the train. Go to New York, auditioned at the American Theater Wing. They had a really great school at the time. It's no longer there. The American Theater Wing is there, of course, but the school that they ran is not around anymore. And I studied there, and a year after that, I was one of 6 actors that got accepted to the Raymond Moore Professional Training Center, which was on Cape Cod. And so I did some off-Broadway and a lot of summer stock, and just went from there.
Now, you had a stint from there that took you to Florida, and you had theaters there. Tell us about that part.
Well, I thought I would retire. I thought I would, and this goes back maybe, 10 years now, I guess, 8 years. I thought I would retire, but I think when you're in the arts, the time to retire is when you drop dead. I don't think as long as you are capable, then you should remain in the arts.
Yeah.
And my sister is a visual artist. She's a painter, and she's older than me. Hard to believe, but she is. And she still paints. She's never going to retire. So we dropped dead first, basically. But I thought foolishly I would go to Florida. I hated Florida. Hated Florida. It was too hot. It's great for vacation. So I needed something to do rather than sit around the pool and talk politics with all these old guys, even though I'm an old guy. So I looked for a play. First of all, I started directing at some theaters in Florida, but they weren't doing my kind of shows, basically. They were doing a lot of fluff and silly stuff, even stuff that was written for high school students they were doing. Just wasn't for me. So I looked at a location in a strip mall across the street from a theater I had directed at, and opened up a theater, remodeled the inside, and opened with David Mamet, Speed the Plow, which was different for Florida.
Of course.
Different for the area. So, and that's still going. That's still in Stuart, Florida. So that's been going for 8 years. They're talking about expanding.
Now, you ended up deciding that your time in Florida was up and you came back to Connecticut?
Yes.
Tell us what made that transition happen.
I hated Florida.
So you were done with your theaters and decided to come up here?
Yeah, I wasn't, it's too bad I wasn't done with the theater, you know what I'm saying. But I had a tech director, also a New York guy, and with lots of experience in theater, especially at the tech end of it. And we talked about him taking over. And we were a nonprofit, so he became the president. He's still running it today, but I was happy not to close it, which I never would have really wanted to do. So that's still going on.
Did you decide when you made a decision to come north to Connecticut that you wanted to open up your own theater?
It was in the back of my mind, but I was always thinking that Connecticut was a rather expensive place to do that. You know, rent-wise and so on and so forth. But I did look at a location, and I actually waited about 2.5 years before I decided that he was going to remodel a building. And after 2.5 years, it never happened, so I moved on and found this place in Old Saybrook. So I had been planning it for a while. But I think I had it in the back of my mind that I would do that. Yeah.
Now, you started out as an actor and have transitioned to behind the scenes.
You know, it's funny how...
What happened with that?
I think Helen Menken did a curse on me. Helen Menken was the president of the American Theater Wing when I was studying there. And I kind of ran out of money to continue to study there, and I went to go see her and explained to her my plight. Now, when you're there, when you're studying, you're also auditioning for plays, and they were also producing plays that you could audition for. So I was doing all of, I mean, I was acting, I was doing all of that stuff. But I go to Helen Menken, and I say, look, I don't think I can continue. I can't afford, you know, the train was costing a lot to get in, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. She said, don't you worry about it. Let me take care of it. I'll pay.
Nice.
Yeah, it was great. But this is what she said to me. She said, you know, someday you're going to be a great producer. A producer? What are you talking about? I'm an actor. I've been doing it. Trust me. I had no idea what she was talking about. Could care less. She's paying for it. Yeah, okay, you got it. I'll be a producer. So anyway, I think what actually happened, I was in a show, which shall remain nameless because the director is probably watching this program.
Okay.
But I was in a show, and the director, we lost a cast member, and the director took that role, which you never should do. You're either going to direct or you're going to act. But but I watched this very carefully because I knew it wasn't going to work, and because I'd seen it before, and there was so much that I thought was being missed that could have come out of this production for the benefit of the actor and the audience. And so that was probably almost 20 years ago, maybe a little bit more than 20 years ago. And that's when I decided I would direct, because it was one of the best written plays, best written American play. It's a classic. I won't say it.
Okay.
And I just felt that I don't know, it was like I was mentally making notes on how this thing could be better. And I'm saying to myself, well, if I'm kind of making mental notes on how this could be better, then why don't I just do that? Mm-hmm. So that's what started me directing.
Okay.
So,
Let's jump up ahead now. DramaWorks, you've opened this up. You're the founder, producer, director. What is it all about? People probably may not have heard of it yet.
yeah,
hope
well,
not.
that's your fault.
I know. I've been there. I've been to several productions.
I know.
That you exist.
I know. It's a nice little place, isn't it?
It's wonderful.
And the seats, talk about the seats.
Well, the
Now,
seats
I'll
are
interview you
movie
now.
theater seats.
Aren't they nice?
So they're nice and comfortable. You
Yes.
can move back and they're stuffed. They're gorgeous.
Yeah.
What do you have, 42 or 48 seats?
44 now.
44, okay.
And we're actually thinking about adding another row in front.
Oh, nice.
Except we have to move the stage back. It's a little bit of a,
Yeah, there's only
production.
so much space there.
yeah, there is. But we have 44. And sometimes some of the shows do run out. I mean, do sell out. Almost.
Yeah.
Sell out. A couple seats here and there. But what it's about is really basically we try to do mostly contemporary American drama with a little bit of British thrown in. And I research Canadian plays. It's not that we go out of our way to do stuff that nobody's ever heard of, but we do go out of our way to find stuff that is good theater, period. Good theater. In some cases that may teach us something about ourselves as well. You wait.
Tell us about the website. What will the viewer find when they arrive at the website?
Pretty much everything except about me.
Okay.
As you know, I don't like.
Are you doing any teaching of your acting classes? You had done that.
Yeah. I may do that. I may do that in December. I may pick it up again.
Because that had a write-up of you going along.
That did.
And then with
That
the
did.
audition.
It had
So-
my little bio.
Yeah, your bio.
Yeah, and that'll go back on if we decide to do classes again.
Okay.
And classes really, frankly, are something that that I've done in the past free, or I've charged a little bit, to cover overhead. I don't necessarily want to make money at it. I don't make money at anything, do I? No. But if somebody has an interest, and maybe it goes back to being helped. I was helped when I was 16, and Helen Mencken helped me. The one thing about theater, if you're involved in it, is there's a lot of help. There's a lot of people that are willing to teach you, train you, bring you along, unselfishly, for no reason, just to help, because it's a community, basically.
True.
We use that word a lot, but in theater, it's true. And we nourish each other. So that's my feeling on teaching. If somebody has an interest, they should be given an opportunity to learn a little bit. And basically my approach is classic. It's the classic way of teaching. I tend towards Lee Strasberg's approach to theater, to acting. There's nothing, it's not rocket science. You have to have talent. If you have talent, you can be an actor. You just got to learn. It's like if you have a piano and you walk up to a piano, you're not going to start playing if you've never been trained. You're going to sit and play something? No. You first learn where middle C is. It's right there.
Right.
Middle C. That's where you start.
Did you find being the founder of a theater company difficult? Was it something that you were drawn to?
Piece of cake.
Really?
Absolutely piece of cake.
Okay. But you need to have funding behind you.
Got to have the money to do it.
To do it.
But it's not only the money. 50% of restaurants fail. Do you know why?
Why?
Because they don't have the financial backing to see them through that first year. So that's the only thing that I had to worry about, was to make sure that I could keep this thing financially sound while we built up an audience, which we are currently doing. We do get probably 8 or 10 people that come back often enough that we can call them regulars. People love the shows we do, and they love the little theater that we have. There's pictures on the, just talk about the web, see what happens? We talk about, we go off because we were talking about the website. So there's pictures on the website that you can see a little bit of the theater and the seating, how it is. The front row's very interesting because the seats can be taken out, a wheelchair can be moved in there. They're very comfortable. You've never sat in one of those.
Okay, let's hold that thought. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You are tuned into Arts and Entertainment. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Smart TVs and streaming services have taken over the television industry. VSC TV is proud to announce our presence on Apple TV and Roku to make watching your favorite shows even easier. You can access this service by downloading the Cablecast ScreenWeave app. Then choose Valley Shore Community TV from the list of channels. Select VSC TV Live to watch our channel in full HD. Or pick a show from our on-demand video library. VSC TV is your local Connecticut Midshore Valley digital connection.
And welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and we continue on with my conversation with Ed Wilhelms and his theater Drama Works. And Ed, why don't we begin this segment with your calendar, there you go, of events for 2023 into 2024. You've made decisions.
On 2024?
Well, yeah, I know you've 2024, but 2023 is set, right?
Oh yeah, and we have 3 productions that are coming up. We just started rehearsals for The Children by Lucy Kirkwood. That's a British play. And we started rehearsals on that last night.
Okay.
And I read that thing a couple of years ago, and I've been wanting to do it. I actually wanted to do it, but COVID hit us. So I've waited a little while, but it's very theatrical. It's a wonderful play about a retired couple that worked at a nuclear power plant. And they have moved to a little cottage that they own by the sea. And but there's been an accident at the power plant where they used to work, but it's a rather bad accident.
Okay.
And electricity's been shut off, comes on a couple times a day, food is very scarce. It's a real problem. And they're visited by a coworker, a woman who has worked there with them, who knows the husband rather well.
Okay.
From the past. And she comes with a suggestion on how this event can be reversed, but it involves perhaps not being retired anymore.
Okay.
It's a very interesting play. It's funny, it's sad, it's very human play. It's sort of sci-fi in a way because it deals with an accident at a nuclear power plant. Things are dying, you know. Anyway.
What's your next one?
And then after that is Barrymore. Barrymore.
Oh, there you go.
Was on Broadway a few years ago. It takes place in 1942, and John Barrymore, about I think 2 months before his death, rents a theater because he thinks he wants to rehearse because he thinks he's going to have a comeback role in Richard III. And it's basically him and a prompter and a rack full of clothing and some props.
Okay.
And Barrymore reminisces about his past. He sings a song, he does a dance, he makes fun of Lionel and Ethel Barrymore, and he just remembers things.
How about your next one?
That one is by Shoreline Playwrights is coming back.
Oh, sure.
And that's in December, and they have a holiday works in progress, so they're going to be presenting, or I'm going to be presenting.
Right. They've been here before.
2 one-act plays. They're roughly a half hour each that are holiday themed. So that's the end of our 2023.
Okay.
And then we don't take a break right into 2024.
Right in that. Okay, briefly, how are we doing for 2024? Have you decided what you want?
No.
How do you decide what you want?
Oh, gosh. Well, I can tell which shows do better than others because I can get a report from our ticket sales company that gives us that information. And the shows that seem to sell the best are very human plays that have a little bit of comedy and a little bit of drama mixed in with it. And the ones that are straight drama maybe don't do as well. So I look at what the audience is like more than what, it's not that they dislike, but I look at pretty much what they like more than the others. Because they're all good, I think. Mm-hmm. And people have never said, oh, I didn't like that, at least to me and the other folks that are there. So that's helpful. And then I pick shows that are good for the space. It's, as you know, the stage is, even though it's 19 feet wide, it's not that deep. And the backstage, there are really no wing space. Backstage is a little tight, can be. So, I'm not looking for cast size of 9 or 12. I'm looking, 5 or 6 at the most. So that's in the mix. But as long as it's really good theater, it's got to be a good story. Mm-hmm. It's got to be good theater. It's got to be interesting, maybe timely. I'm working on I think I'm going to go with one next year that is very timely. I don't want to be political, but sometimes the show comes along and talks about things that are going on today politically. Like, for example, this play takes place in, I think it's 1954, but it has relevance today. It's about a poet who writes things, who had I guess today you would call it a blog, but he writes things that are kind of nasty about certain community that we live with here in the country. And somebody who tries to persuade him not to do that because it affects how other people act towards these folks. So that's very timely, even though that play was written, it's about a true story about a person back in the 40s and 50s, but it has relevance today. And so we're probably going to do that. We're doing a Shakespeare.
Oh, there you go.
And for the first time, and I'm not directing that one, thank goodness. The director has some very good experience in doing Shakespeare. Thank goodness.
We are starting to run out of time, but I wanted, Drama Works is in Old Saybrook, Connecticut. What made you decide to go there? Because we had done 2 shows in Stonington, and they didn't do that well. Not that I expected them to, brand new theater, brand new me to the area and so on. Number one, I like Old Saybrook.
I lived there for 28 years. I just like the area, but it also is like in the middle of the state, bada boom, right there. So you can draw people from New Haven,
Right.
and you can draw from Westerly, Rhode Island. People come from. It's an easy drive. It's right off 95. It's great. It's a great spot. And I found this building.
Yeah.
That was zoned for theater. Can you imagine?
I can imagine.
I know. It's craziness. I just bumped into it, basically, checking on the website, looking for, a place to rent. And then walked into an empty space, and that was it.
Well, I want to thank you very much for coming. It's been great, and you've covered so much information.
But I want to tell you, I love what you've done with the place, and I love especially the swimming pool you put in.
Oh, right, okay.
It's right over there.
Thanks again. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You're tuned into Arts and Entertainment. I hope you enjoyed the show. Have a super day today. I'll see you next time.